Hey everyone, welcome back to the 626 Productions Sports Podcast. We have gotten even closer to coming up with the name. I feel pretty confident next week, Pat, that we will have one. But once again, couple week break, but we are back and just in time for the men's national championship for college basketball. First off, how you been? Two, how bad's the bracket?
I've been hanging in there. I can't complain. Pretty good. Just hoping we can make these more regular again and get back into our flow of things. But the bracket's not great. I went a little too bold this year, I think, with my first round picks, and that's really what hurt things for me. I still had a shot up until Saturday night at having the national championship matchup correct. But Duke, when they squandered their lead, kind of ruined that a little bit for me. But I've still got my national champion alive. Kind of gives away who I picked. But um, other than that, it's been a meh year for the bracket.
Yeah, I'm with you in the same boat. My first round, give or take here and there. I got through the days all right. That round of 32 really got me. I have one of my national championship game participants correct. So got to give a big shout out to the Houston Cougars.
Shout out.
I almost picked them to win it all, wanted to, but just I don't know, something stopped me from doing it. Uh, you know, that's a program that they've been so good for so long. They probably do deserve one. But I had to go with the Fighting Rick Pitino's, and you know, John Calipari really did me in there. Did not did not expect the Johnnies to go out in second round. So that completely destroyed my bracket immediately. I think I had two of the four uh, final four teams correct. I had, let's see, Florida obviously getting knocked out, and then who else? The other one, I didn't have Auburn getting in.
Mm.
So yeah, not the best, not the best for this season on the men's side. Women's side was okay. Almost got my champion with South Carolina, but UConn just was unbelievable this year. I don't know how much of the women's tournament you caught up with, but UConn looked like the UConn that like we all grew up watching, where it's like, yep, their women are probably going to win. Yep, like they're that good.
Yeah, I didn't catch as much of, I'd say, the early games in the women's tournament as the men's. I spent most of that first weekend just watching the men's tournament, whether it was the opening games, round of 32. I was pretty focused on that, but I did catch a decent bit of the women's side from, I'd say, the Sweet 16 slash Elite Eight on. And yeah, I agree. Obviously, as somebody who went to South Carolina, graduated from South Carolina, just like you, I was hoping the Lady Gamecocks would pull it out and bring home another national championship. But, after that meeting at Colonial Life earlier this year, I had a feeling that it was going to be UConn. Or until Juju got hurt, I thought USC, the other USC, had a decent shot. Um, but UConn was just a really complete team this year, especially with AZ Fudd coming back strong from her knee injury and really meeting those expectations that she had set.
Yeah, just watching them, like even the UCLA game in the Final Four, like that's kind of the team I was worried the most about because obviously they're the team that broke the streak for South Carolina. So putting that on the radar, and then they had a great season from that point on. And I was like, this Final Four matchup, UConn UCLA, is this a big game? Like obviously both teams had beaten South Carolina this season, but maybe just because of how much South Carolina's played UConn over the past couple of years, because of the two teams being at the top for so long now. I was like, this UCLA team, they're new, they're fresh, they're good, and then UConn just was like, yeah, I'm gonna remind you that we're UConn, and yeah, they just blew them out of the water. And, I think I don't know if South Carolina ever had a lead in that national title game, but I mean, it was from the start. UConn seemed different, and then that second half was just all Huskies. Paige Beckers, as a Gamecock, I got to say, like, it's a great story, like, for everything she went through with in college, getting her ring, definitely deserves, and she will probably go number one overall to, I believe, the Mystics have the first pick.
Hmm.
So her story kind of comes full circle at, of course, the Gamecocks' expense. But yeah, I mean, just a great team. Kind of makes you wonder if Gino's got everyone back in line because they have some great returning players for next season.
Yeah, yeah, they were an absolute wagon this year. Like you said, AZ's coming back next year. I think
I forget her first name, but Strong will
Strom,
be
yeah,
coming
I
back.
I was trying to think of her first name too. She'll be back, and I think they have a pretty decent recruiting class coming in. So I think even though they had faded a little bit during that time where both Beckers and Fudd were battling some injuries, and Nika Mule was kind of the one getting the most playing time, I would say. They're definitely back in the spotlight as, for now, the top dog in women's basketball. But Dawn and the Lady Gamecocks, they're going to be fighting for that. And with NIL, I'm sure USC and UCLA will have good teams again next year as well.
Yeah, very, very likely. And then seeing a team kind of like an Indiana in the Big Ten kind of coming up, almost stepping over Iowa, like in their transition from after Caitlin Clark.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so obviously that's three really good teams right there in the Big Ten, all competing against each other. Kind of trying to fill that vacuum, and then obviously UConn, the Big East, and then now you have a couple teams in the SEC with Texas, South Carolina. Um, so it should be interesting to see how we kind of fall in line, and then of course, not to mention LSU has been good for a couple years now under
Yeah.
Kim Mulkey. You know, and even whenever you think that they're not in it, they're so scrappy that they're good. They're in the conversation. So should be interesting to see next year. But yeah, Gino Gino gets another ring. I think that's 12 total now.
Yeah.
So he's got to go down as one of the best coaches of all time, both men's and women's college basketball. Transitioning back to the men's now. Tonight, this is it, Pat. It is. Oh, and I'm just blank hard. Oh, Florida and Houston. I was like, I literally have Houston. I literally talked earlier how I have Houston in the bracket, but Florida and Houston. I mean, I feel like a lot of people, it makes sense to go, yeah, they're both one seeds. They're both going to be here. But start of the tournament, obviously we both picked Houston. Florida, both being in, like, how do you feel about that?
I definitely didn't see four one seeds, excuse me, representing the final four. My bracket was a little bit not super diverse. I had one kind of off the wall pick. My final four was Florida, Michigan State, which was a 2 seed, Duke, and then my off the wall pick was Gonzaga, making a deep run as an 8 seed. I really liked the way the Zags played offensively, but they were just in the torture chamber for most of the first half and most of the second half against a really, really good Houston team. Um, so, that Houston run definitely hurt my bracket a lot. But like you said, it's a great story to see them in this position of prominence as a program. They are historically strong. But you think about when Kelvin Sampson took over the job in 2016, they were in the AAC. They were struggling to reconnect with that identity of success. He had to beg kids on campus to come to their games. So it's really awesome to see that from their side. And then you contrast that with Florida, who post Billy Donovan really struggled for an identity. Mike White was a great coach. He's doing a good job at Georgia, but he just could never really get over that hump. It looked like they might in 2017, but they fell short against South Carolina in the Elite Eight. And now, they've got that shot for the first time in 18 years, which is
Hmm.
crazy to say. They've got a chance to win a national championship again.
Yeah, it really comes full circle, like you say. It's obviously two different ones, or two different sizes of circles. Um, but nonetheless, I think two very great stories to tell. I'm obviously a little bit more partial to Houston going against the rival in Florida. Um, but both teams now deservingly uh, here. Before we get into our predictions for this game, I do want to touch on Duke. What a shock that was, though. Because whenever we make our picks, you have kind of a mindset of how the season went in a full scope of things, but nothing matters once you're in the tournament. And once we were in the tournament, it was clear that Duke was playing the best basketball. Like they were just going out there and just lighting it up. Cooper Flag is special. Whether he comes back or goes to the NBA next season, he can do whatever he wants. He's that good. Um, and I mean, what we were 4 minutes away, if
Yeah.
not a little less, from making the title game before a great Houston comeback. But I mean, Duke was playing amazing basketball throughout the whole tournament, and I think everyone after the first two rounds were like, "Yep, national champion right there. Duke's back. They got it." So just kind of a surprise. Just wanted to touch on it myself. Don't know if you have any thoughts on that Blue Devil team from this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, that was, like you said, a great team, really deep. It's not just Cooper. Obviously, he's the face and probably the number one pick. I don't see him coming back for another year, but I guess crazier things have happened. But not just him. Malawach was a really good player. He's probably a projected lottery pick. Tyrese Proctor's a seasoned veteran. Con Knippel came in, played really, really well as a freshman, as part of that great class that Shire assembled. And yeah, they were really clicking on all cylinders pretty much from the point that they lost that Clemson game forward. They were just mowing teams over, especially in the ACC tournament. And then they come out, they look great. Even Saturday night, they looked great up until probably, like you said, around like the 4 or 5 minute mark where momentum started shifting. Houston started going on this run. Um, and then Tyrese Proctor, who I just mentioned, the guy who most Duke fans would probably really trust with the game on the line, misses that key free throw. A little bit of a here or there call on the over the back with Flag, but I mean, that lets Houston get 2 points without running any time off the clock. And now that game really becomes a toss up that Houston just kind of gutted it out and really willed itself to that win. So credit to them. And obviously, Duke is a blue blood. They're one of the great programs in college basketball. So they'll be back next year. I'm not worried about them. Um, but yeah, it was a great tournament. It just goes to show that in March, nothing's won until that buzzer sounds.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Kind of a off cuff question. Who was your darling slash Cinderella of this tournament? Doesn't necessarily have to be a team that made a deep run, but obviously at least one game. Um, but who was kind of your Dunk City, Florida Gulf Coast of this or Lob City, excuse me, of this tournament?
Man, that's tough because, this tournament, we didn't see, like you said, a whole lot of upsets, a whole lot of deep runs by high seeded teams. And hmm, it's going to sound kind of crazy because it is a power conference team, but they came in as a 10 seed. I guess like the only team that was kind of making a little bit of noise and nobody really saw happening was Arkansas. Um, they come out, execute great against Kansas in a game that most people thought that they would probably lose, just from the talent that Kansas had on their roster. And then Cal comes out, outclasses Rick Pitino in the round of 32. And if it wasn't for a historic collapse in that game against Texas Tech, they're a 10 seed in the Elite Eight. Um, so, yeah, hats off to Arkansas, hats off to Cal on a job well done this year. Started off really rocky, but I think if you tell Arkansas fans you made a trip to the Sweet 16, they're happy with that. They're happy with year one under Cal. So I guess they were my, we'll say, darling or sleeper for this year.
Yeah, that's a fun pick there, and I do like that pick. Uh, very unfortunately, because of them knocking out my pick to win the national title. Um, but I mean, yeah, I got to say, like, Coach Cal's move to Arkansas has obviously been, you know, it's been a great talking point because you kind of just always assumed he would stay at Kentucky, and obviously the noise got louder and louder for him to be able to, uh, what's the word, perform there, and he just wasn't in years of late. So he said, "All right, enough's enough. I'm tired of this. I'm going to move on." He went to Arkansas. And I mean, still making the Sweet 16 in year one has got to be a great success in his mind. Obviously, he's won it all, but going to that Arkansas program, who had the pieces a little bit ago, kind of floundered around, and then now has kind of seemingly refocused underneath him. Um, I think that that's got to work well in his vision, but it's been weird to get used to say the least. Um, I think I'm going to go a little bit different on your pick. Um, I got to give a shout out. You had Gonzaga going to the Final Four as an 8 seed. They still made the Sweet 16, so another second weekend um, team. But I, mm, I think I have to do it to the probably negative Clemson viewers that we have, or listeners that we have. Gotta say McNeese State, just because of the amount of social media attention that they got, not necessarily from that Clemson game, but just from that staff and that team in general. Um, their coach going to NC State, taking the manager Aura with them, and I think Aura had more social media posts about him than I think that entire division's like round of 64 and 32. Uh,
Yeah.
Matchups combined. It was kind of insane. He had, I think, over $1 million in NIL deals done, and he doesn't even see the court. I think that's kind of crazy. Now he's going to NC State to be a part of that staff, like taking that aura, that winning,
Mm-hmm.
mentality, uh, you know, that presence that he brings, is pretty like unheard of. I feel like we haven't seen that since like, what's his name, Red Lightning from Florida State.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I feel like that's kind of the same vibe. Um, so like I guess you only see him come around like once every 10 years, and he's certainly making the most of his moment. So I guess it's not even McNeese State, but my Cinderella is going to be Aura
Okay.
for this
Okay.
tournament. Obviously a very random pick, but also I feel like that goes hand in hand with just the March Madness brand these days.
Yeah, and I mean, Aura's definitely a good story, racking up, like you said, those NIL deals. Um, and yeah, I don't know how I blanked on McNeese beating Clemson in that first round game. I guess I had looked too far ahead, but that was a great story. Will Wade, kind of not a great guy, but good for him for getting back to major college basketball. He is a great coach, regardless of his ethics in coaching. And I think it's going to work out for NC State. The guy wins. He's won everywhere he's been. So, um, yeah, shout out to him and Oracan.
Yeah, that certainly, if talking about that McNeese Clemson game, is such a weird like game if you watched it because looking at the score, it was a 2 point game. That game was not close. Uh, I think Clemson scored 13 points in the first half. Is that correct? Like
Yeah.
it was something just unheard of. Obviously they rallied in the second half, made it a very close game, and arguably had a chance to send it to overtime. But yeah, just I don't know if it was more of McNeese playing that good a ball, Clemson playing that bad, a little bit of both, a little bit of the aura. Um, but yeah, I mean it's March. You never know what's going to happen in a given game. You can have best team in the country. Next thing you know, they lay an egg and they're out. So that's what we love about March, and we'll see. We'll see one more magic moment tonight. But we'll move away now from basketball. Well, actually, I don't even know if we've done a projection for tonight.
Uh, I'll go first. So I picked Florida to win before the tournament happened. So I'm rocking with the Gators. I think they'll get it done. Walter Clayton's a special player. Even if his game doesn't really translate to the NBA level, he's a phenomenal guy to watch play college basketball.
Yeah, I got to go with Houston. I think here, the story for me it is what sells me on it. Florida being a rival, I don't want to see them even more. Um, very very surprised and arguably happy beating that Bruce Pearl team the way that they did in the Final Four. That was a great game, great finish. It was kind of just running downhill for the last 8 minutes of that second half.
Yeah.
But a very fun, very entertaining game to watch. I'm hoping that we can kind of get that again. I would be very surprised with Houston style of basketball if it does kind of get that sloppy. But you never know, and that probably would favor Florida. But I just don't see that kind of game happening again. I think Houston kind of controls it. It's going to be a close game, no doubt. In that probably 5 point range, but I like the Cougs, and pulling for them to finally get their national title.
Yeah.
So we'll now hop over to opening day, and it's very surprising that I am this interested in talking about baseball, given how the Braves have started off. But nonetheless, it is time to talk about the diamond. So, want to go into it first. You're a Red Sox guy. How are you feeling about this season?
I'm feeling good. Before the year, I I felt pretty good about the team. Obviously, we stumbled out of the gate a little bit, dropping 3 out of 4 in Texas, and then losing the first game of the Baltimore series. But Sox are on a 5 game winning streak right now, so everything's good in Beantown. Um, and I think this is a team that's got a really really good shot to go deep in the playoffs. I think we're going to be right there with the Yankees for the division all year long. Obviously, Baltimore is going to turn things around after a little bit of a slow start once Gunnar Henderson gets back up to speed. But yeah, I think the Sox are in a good position. Hope I get to see some October meaningful baseball after not seeing the playoffs since 2021. So fingers crossed. Feeling pretty good about the team and the good young core, especially the fact that we still haven't called up Roman Anthony or Marcelo Meyer. Um, Christian Campbell's been great offensively, and I think as he continues to adjust to the speed of Major League Baseball, I think his defensive issues will kind of sort themselves out.
Yeah, lots of positivity in the Boston dugout. Um, Unfortunately, I cannot say the same in Atlanta. I think if you talked to me 2 weeks ago, I'd be saying almost the identical stuff. But that's just not kind of the world we live in now. To give the Braves their credit, they start the season on a very tough road trip, playing both the Padres and the Dodgers, two very good teams, and the Dodgers more than likely your back-to-back champs, but we'll get to that in a moment. Um, but then obviously Profar getting hit with a 88 game suspension or just 80.
I think 80.
Well, nonetheless, he's out for half the season. Will miss playoffs due to number of games that he is missing. So a big blow for the Braves. Their big offseason signing just immediately gone. Now it just goes to attrition. Will the Braves be able to stay healthy this year? And I feel like every season, one of their star players in the last five is going down. Acuna's gone down with two different ACL injuries. Albies has gone down with numerous cases. Obviously, the year before the World Series, Freddie, when he was still a Brave, was dealing with injuries. So they've just been a really injury-ridden team. And now that they've been set back with a uh, suspension, it's even more important for the team to stay healthy. So if they're able to stay healthy, I like their chances to get back to the playoffs. I would say that we still have a great chance at the World Series this year. But just kind of seeing how we've started and seeing the pieces that we will be missing going into the playoffs outside of any injuries that we may have,
Mm.
I just don't like our chances now. I think at this point in time, it is just, obviously you still want to make the playoffs. Once you make it, you never know what can happen, but make sure that we have a deep group of guys going into next season, um, and that no one gets too incredibly banged up. And, I hate to say mail it in this year, like the way I'm talking, but um, almost like think about next season because I mean, you have teams like the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox are looking amazing to start this season. It's only April. You don't win anything until October. But from A Town, it is not as optimistic, one could say.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, the beautiful thing about baseball is that it's such a long season and you don't win anything in April. You can be the best team in baseball in April and walk away with nothing at the end of the year. So I think for the Braves, I think you guys just need to get healthy and getting Acuna back whenever he is ready to go. That's going to be a huge jolt and a huge boost to your lineup. Um, so I think the Braves will be fine. I'm just hoping for both of us that we see some good baseball, some entertaining baseball, and some meaningful baseball down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So with the optimism behind the Red Sox for you, how are we thinking? What's our World Series prediction this year? Not saying we need
Ooh,
the, opponents and everything, just right now, April 7th, who is your World Series champion?
man. I think it's tough to say anybody but Los Angeles. And I mean the Dodgers, not the Angels. um,
Mike Trout got really happy for a second.
yeah, yeah. Shout out Mike Trout. We appreciate the listen. Um, yeah, I mean it's tough to say anybody but the Dodgers because they are so good. But I think the one thing that could spice things up a little bit is how deep the NL West is this year. Again, it's only April, but the Giants are like 8-1 or 9-1. The Padres are 8-2, so they're gonna give the Dodgers a test all year long. And maybe that leads to the Dodgers being a little bit worn down when it comes time for the playoffs. So I'll say the not so fun guess Dodgers, but if we're playing anybody but the Dodgers, give me the Sox. I'll be a homer there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit on the head. Like the Dodgers, that roster is just unreal. Obviously, they won last year, so they have the experience of and know how to do it. And they've only got stronger. So you're kind of a fool to pick anyone but the Dodgers. But obviously, it is such an obvious pick. I feel like you can't go with that. It has gotten to that point.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't think you're going to like this pick from me, but for some reason, I just have a gut. I feel like I've just kind of heard it. so much lately, which is, the same as saying the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl next year. But this one feels a little bit different. I think the Yankees will
Mm,
win the World Series this year.
mm.
I have that gut feeling. That's obviously been a good roster for a while. Um, I think being allowed to grow the facial hair is what was holding them back the last 2 decades. And that is what is going to break the little curse that they have. So as much as I don't really want to see it either, I think it's the Yankees.
Oh man, I hope that's not what happens. But you're all right. The Yankees do have a good team. I think what could hurt them as the season progresses and as the season goes on is their lack of pitching depth, or I should say, quality pitching depth. Um, Cole's out for the season, so obviously, well, unless magically you come back from Tommy John really quickly. Cole's out for most of the season, we'll say. Maybe a slim shot at getting back at the end of September and getting back for the playoffs if he recovers miraculously. Clark Schmidt's been injured to start the year, so I'm a little bit concerned about their pitching depth, not just because I dislike the Yankees, just from a neutral perspective. And I don't know. I think we talked about this a little bit before we got on the podcast, but I think a team to keep an eye on is Texas Ranger. Texas Rangers. Jesus Christ, I had a stroke
The
there.
Rangers.
Rangers. Um, they've got a really good offense. I mean, anytime you send a promising young guy like Evan Carter down to start a season, it shows how deep your team really is. And I think Carter, since he's coming off that back injury, once he gets his timing back in AAA, he'll be a really good, maybe like late May, early June addition to the team, provide even more depth, probably overtake Leote Taveras, but you never know. Um, and I think the Rangers are poised to make another deep run. People kind of overlooked the fact that they won the World Series 2 years ago because it was, I know Dallas is a big city, but kind of a small market series with the Diamondbacks and the Rangers. But that's a good team, and I don't think people should sleep on them.
Yeah, I thought that was such an interesting year too, because I think that was also obviously they're a few months apart, but in line with the that crazy Final Four where it was just like all underdogs, and you go into baseball, and it was Diamondbacks who was the last team into the playoffs, and then the Rangers. Um, so kind of like a big underdog season, and like yeah, like you forget they did win it 2 years ago. And obviously that roster I feel like has gotten better in the past 2 years. Um, but you know, as long as you get into the playoffs, just get hot then. We kind of talked about that earlier, how, we got into March Madness and I was watching Duke. I'm like, yep, Duke's hot. They got it. They're in. Obviously, they didn't close the deal, but I mean, same thing happened with Texas. They got hot at the end of the season, and then they were able to close it against the Diamondbacks. And yeah, I mean, all it takes is having a good roster, getting there, and you never know. You never know. So that's kind of, I guess, the dark horse pick for the year. Got to hold out. Got to hold out a little bit of faith at this point now. In the M's, Ichiro's jersey's getting retired, and also the only team to not make a World Series, not necessarily win it, but to make it. Um, gotta throw some hometown love over to the M's to hopefully give this town something to cheer for in baseball, because they do have a lot of fans up here, but not a lot of success. So that is a outside of the Rangers, obviously being a solid team, a pretty wide open division there. Let's quickly jump over now. It is April 7th, Monday, as we indicated earlier. It is Masters Week. Best tournament in golf. How how are we feeling going into this tournament, Pat? I know we both like to watch this closely. I think golf in general we haven't been able to keep up with, but this tournament is where we get our eyes back. Um, Before we kind of think or look at any potential odds, is there a name coming to mind right now that you're like, They may not win it, but they'll make some noise.
Oof. Hmm.
Doesn't have to be an unheard of pick. It can be the obvious one if it needs to be.
Okay. Um, obviously, if we're talking who's got a great shot to win, Scotty Scheffler is still Scotty Scheffler. Um, if I'm thinking maybe like a little sleeper on who can at least make a little bit of noise, and surprise some people with their performance at Augusta this week. I'm going to go with mm, maybe Corey Connors. Corey
Oh
Connors.
wow!
Yeah, yeah. Shout out Canada. Um,
Also, listener of the pod,
yeah,
thanks
yeah,
for coming out.
yeah. Corey and Mike, they get together, crush a few beers while listening to this. So great to shout out our fans. But he's been playing awesome golf to start this year, and he's always a guy who's kind of just sniffing that top 15, top 10 area. So I wouldn't be super shocked to see him get another T10. Um, I don't know how he's fared in the Masters recently. I'm sure I could check that. But I know in majors in general, he's always in that T15, T10 area. So I could see him being a name that is kind of around on Sunday, but maybe not necessarily in the direct hunt to win things.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this very quickly, best finish was 2022. He tied for sixth at 3 under.
Uh,
Um, and I can't find a full list of his appearances in Augusta, but obviously tied for sixth is no slouch. When talking about that crazy course, I love the Scotty Scheffler shout out. He just knows how to play Augusta, and right now I think he's cooled off a little bit from where he was last year
mm-hmm.
this time, but he's still one of the best golfers in the world. He's not on that tear where he was clear and concise the number one golfer. Um, but nonetheless, like he once April rolls around, he's got his game kind of in gear, and he knows what he's doing out there. So he's always a contender when it comes to Augusta. Kind of on, I guess, a dark horse, but I don't think it's a dark horse pick anymore this year, based on kind of how he's going in. Uh, Hideki Matsuyama,
Mm.
I really like to get a second green jacket here. I think it would also be pretty fun considering like he's been either at the top or at the top in Augusta, and then like a lot of the other majors, he's been having a hard time in performing. Um, like still not playing bad golf by any means, but I just feel like he has not had the same kind of attention post his win as say some of the others in recent years. So I like Matsuyama to potentially get one in here. Um, Bryson DeChambeau's kind of lurking around. He's been playing pretty well on the Live Tour as of late. Obviously, he has the infamous par 67,
Mm-hmm.
um, which he immediately paid for that season. But I think he's kind of grown up a little bit, figured out his game a little bit more as he bulked up, really became that long driver that he is now. Um, so I think that he could also put himself in great contention going into Sunday.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't have another Jordan Spieth situation as my go-to golfer. I would like for him to do something well in Augusta again. I feel like he has not done anything since the 13th. I believe he's only made two cuts since then, uh, since that unfortunate blow up.
Yeah.
But hey, fingers crossed he at least makes it to Sunday, has a nice little weekend for himself.
Oh, that'd be great to see. And I think I can't believe I forgot him as a guy. I went automatically to sort of a sleeper top 10, but I think if you're looking for maybe like a sleeper-ish, sleeper adjacent winner pick, there's always Ludwig Aubert. Um,
Oh, yeah, I did the same thing. I looked down. and I love the guy too. I had him pretty high last year as well, and he had a great showing.
Yeah, I mean, I love Ludwig. He played great last year, like you said. Um, he's still young, so he still has time to, really find himself in these big tournaments. Um, so I'd keep an eye on Ludwig if you're looking to, maybe spice it up a little bit and throw in somebody with a little longer odds than a Scotty or a Rory, or I think Colin Morikawa has really good odds going into this
Morikawa is
week.
currently sitting 16-1. That is fourth best odds.
Yeah, yeah.
You obviously we have named number one at Scotty, number two Rory at 13-2.
Mm.
Quite surprising there, I think. And then John Rahm at 14-1. So yeah, Morikawa sitting 16-1. That surprised me a little bit. Seeing him that high, in front of names like Oberg, Xander Schauffele, Bryson DeChambeau, and even Justin Thomas. Justin Thomas sitting at 22-1.
Yeah.
So very interesting. Do we think we see, any of the fun names that we've had in the past? Angel Cabrera coming back. I think he's on a 7-year hiatus, I want to say. Obviously, two of those were not of his choice. But he is now back. He won on the Champions Tour last weekend, so got a little bit of momentum
Hot.
coming in.
He's hot.
Would be fun for him to make the cut potentially. A Fred Couples, I believe this is his final Masters, if I remember correctly. Maybe he will change his mind, but I do believe this is his final Masters he's playing in. Um, would be very fun to see names like those past champions uh, at least making the cut and playing through the weekend.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have a Phil 2023 situation where he made that crazy run on Sunday after the weather delay. Um, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see a past champion kind of hang around a little bit, sniff their nose, like a Sergio Garcia, Patrick Reed, guys who have kind of fallen out of the main focus and the main limelight of golf, especially since they're now both playing for Live. I could see both of them having decent tournaments, keeping themselves in the running or in that general scope um, that we're talking about, and we're noticing them on Saturday and on Sunday.
For sure. Yeah, and it just only helps kind of like add to the spectacle that is the Masters. Because obviously, when you have years where it's like Scotty winning it, it's like, man, he's just playing great golf.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it makes a lot of sense. Best tournament in golf, best golfer, makes sense. But then you also have the magic that was 2019, Tiger winning it after so many years, all those hurdles that he had to jump through to even get back to golfing. Um, that was pretty special. Obviously, it was accompanied by a Molinari collapse on the back to open the door for Tiger. Uh, but I mean, moments like that too, where it's like a champion who is definitely removed from their prime, then coming back and getting the jacket is pretty amazing stuff that is hardly replicated in other sports.
Yeah, I agree, especially since, even Tiger in 2019, he was pretty past his prime. Um, and it's just one of those special things about golf where, especially at a course like Augusta, where you don't have to be super long, like sometimes the PGA sets it up that way, where it's really designed for the younger guys, the longer hitters. Um, we can see some fun names and some blasts from the past. Kind of remind us about why we loved them back when they were younger and back when they were in their prime. So it'd be pretty cool to get a Tiger 2019 if an older guy can win it, or even a Phil 2023 where one of those former champions makes a really good push on Sunday and puts some heat on the leader.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, so we'll talking about one of those sports, magic moments with Tiger, and just the Masters in general. We'll switch over to hockey now as we wrap up this show. Alex Ovechkin has broken the great one's goal scoring
Yeah.
He now is sitting at 895 career goals and counting. Uh, plus one past Ilya Sorokin of the New York Islanders on Sunday, and immediately proceeded to a 40-minute on ice mid period presentation and ceremony. Did not see that coming, but very fun, very cool as a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. And yes, I'm sure that you are now picking up that my fandoms are all over the place. Do not worry. I unfortunately have not jumped around anywhere because the dark days are coming. Um, but as a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, it's still cool to see as great as the rivalry is between the Capitals and the Penguins. I can't stand Ovechkin, but have anyone making a milestone like that is just incredible. It is quite crazy to think because I mean we didn't think any of Gretzky's records would get touched.
Hmm.
I think the point record is quite safe,
Yeah.
seeing how the game has kind of developed. But still, the goal record being broken is pretty cool. I kind of feel like it one day. I don't know if it'll be Ovechkin, depending on how much longer he plays. I think he's pretty close to hanging it up. Um, but someone will probably eventually hit 1,000 goals. I feel like that's just something's going to happen there. Um, but I mean, nonetheless, I mean, just got to give a hats off to him for making such a monumental moment. So it's obviously now the great one in Wayne Gretzky and the great eight with Alexander Ovechkin. So as a Bruins fan, kind of what are your thoughts on Ovi?
Yeah, I thought it was great for Ovi and for the sport. The NHL has kind of revitalized a little bit of its popularity here post COVID. But I think, as a big hockey guy, the league definitely can struggle to market its stars and market the game in general a lot of the times. So to see a lot of national media attention on Ovechkin and on hockey, it was awesome. Um, like you said, it's kind of crazy that somebody did break Gretzky's goal record, considering goaltending wasn't exactly at its prime, we'll say, when Gretzky first started playing, not to take anything away from him, of course. But now you got guys doing butterflies, you've got insane athletes between the pipes versus, sometimes you could go 5-hole on a goalie and he's got no way to stop it back in Wayne's day. So I think it's good for the game to have somebody pass him in goals. I think it was great that Wayne himself was there endorsing Ovi's achievement. And yeah, congratulations to Alex Ovechkin on being the new all-time goal scoring leader in NHL history.
Yeah, I mean, just remarkable. And like you say, kind of Wayne Gretzky being there was obviously great for the sport as well. For him to not only be present in the record breaking moment, but also to be such an endorser of, you know, the game, of Ovechkin breaking the record, very happily saying, I'll be the first person to shake your hand, smiling when Ovechkin broke the record. Um, you know, that's the guy where obviously I think the records are pretty fun for him. Having that moment, like I wouldn't see why it wouldn't be. But also being able to witness someone being so good that able to break your record and just for the sport itself, is pretty selfless and kind of what I think we expect with the great one where um, there's the story that always sticks out to me and everyone starts standing up and the guy who doesn't really know hockey, um, it's like, hey, why is everyone standing up? And it's like, dude, that's Wayne Gretzky. He's like basically God here. So, the amount of respect that fans have for Wayne Gretzky, him showing that amount of respect toward Alex Ovechkin is, very cool and just really just puts a bow on that moment on Sunday.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. Like we said, good for hockey, good for Ovi. And hopefully the NHL can kind of capitalize on some of its momentum here with Ovi's goal record, the success of the Four Nations, become a big player again in terms of ratings and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, Four Nations, that I feel like helped kick off 2025
For
like
sure.
in the right direction
For
for
sure.
hockey. Because I mean, not only did you have the Four Nations, which was a great success, you have Ovi breaking the record. I feel like the league, especially in the markets, of course, that are prime for the playoffs, hockey is at, you know, if not an all-time high, one of, its highest moments. And, hopefully going into the playoffs, we get the kind of on ice action that will uh, meet the expectation that is kind of
Hmm.
building up around it.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll wrap up today on that note. Once again, congratulations to Ovechkin, and look forward to seeing some golf this upcoming weekend, and then obviously the Final Four tonight. So for Pat, I'm TJ. This has been 626 Productions.